Welcome to your Health Facts. Today we're doing a deep dive on eggs and how to get the most out of them.
Uh, yeah, one of the biggest things people don't realize is how important the freshness of an egg is for what you're cooking.
Hmm, that's interesting. I never thought about that.
Yeah, like if you're making a cake, you actually want to use older eggs.
Really? Why is that?
Well, older eggs, they have thicker whites. And those thicker whites they're better for like creating stable structures in baked goods. So like cakes and meringues and things like
Ah,
that.
so the thicker whites help them rise better.
Exactly. And then for something like a poached egg where you want that nice runny yolk, a fresher egg is better because it's got those thinner whites.
Okay, that makes sense. So how can we tell if an egg is fresh?
Well, there's a really easy test you can do at home. It's called the float test.
Okay, how does that work?
Basically, you just fill a bowl with cold water and gently place your egg in it. If the egg sinks to the bottom and lies flat, it's fresh. But if it stands upright or even floats, it's older.
So that's how you know if you should use it for baking or not.
Yep. And another thing to keep in mind with eggs is making sure you're storing them at a consistent temperature.
Why is that important?
Well, eggs are susceptible to salmonella contamination if they're not stored properly.
Salmonella, that's the bacteria that can cause food poisoning, right?
Exactly. It can cause some pretty nasty symptoms like diarrhea, fever, and stomach cramps.
Mm,
Nobody wants that.
definitely not. So keeping our eggs at a safe temperature helps prevent that.
Right. And that goes for the whole process, from the store to your fridge to cooking them thoroughly. We want to make sure those eggs are safe to eat.
Now, let's talk about cooking those eggs. What are some things we should keep in mind to make sure we're not losing those valuable nutrients?
One of the biggest mistakes people make is overcooking their eggs.
How does overcooking affect them?
Well, when you apply too much heat to an egg, it can toughen the proteins and actually it reduces the nutrient content.
Ah, so all that good stuff in there starts to break down.
Yeah, pretty much. You might have noticed that overcooked yolks get that greenish ring around them.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that before.
Yeah, and that's actually a sign of nutrient loss, and it can make the eggs harder to digest.
So what about using oil? Does the
For
type of oil we use matter?
Using too much oil is definitely something to watch out for. It just adds unnecessary fat and calories that we don't need.
And what about the yolk? A lot of people seem to think the yolk is bad for you and just toss it out.
Yeah, that's a big myth. The yolk is actually full of nutrients. We're talking vitamins A, D, E, and B12, plus healthy fats. Don't throw those away.
So important to remember that. Okay, so we've talked about cooking the inside of the egg. What about the outside? The shell. Are there any safety concerns there we need to be aware of?
Oh, absolutely. Eggshells, they may look solid, but they're actually porous.
Porous, so things can pass through them.
Exactly. And that means bacteria can transfer from the surface of the shell to the inside of the egg.
Oh, wow. I never knew that.
Yeah, so it's really important to be careful when you're cracking and separating eggs. You don't want to transfer any bacteria from the shell to the egg itself.
So how can we avoid doing that?
Well, for one thing, always wash your hands thoroughly before and after handling eggs. And handle the eggshell carefully.
Makes sense. So what about cracked eggs? Are they safe to use?
It's best to avoid using cracked eggs if you can, because they can harbor bacteria. But if an egg cracks accidentally, like on the way home from the store, you can still use it. Just make sure you store it in a sealed container in the refrigerator and use it within 2 days.
So we've talked a lot about what to avoid when preparing eggs. What are some of the best ways to cook them if we want to keep all those healthy nutrients?
Well, if you're looking for low-calorie options, poaching or boiling are great choices.
Yeah, those are definitely my go-to methods. Simple and healthy.
Exactly. And they help retain the nutrients in the eggs.
What about adding other ingredients to our eggs? Any tips there?
Absolutely. Combining eggs with vegetables is a fantastic way to boost the nutritional value of your meal.
I love adding veggies to my omelets and scrambles.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it. You're getting that extra fiber and vitamins from the vegetables. Or you could even just have eggs with a side of roasted vegetables.
Lots of possibilities there. Okay, so let's move on to the different types of eggs we see at the grocery store. It can be a bit overwhelming with all the choices.
It definitely can be. You've got pasture-raised, organic, cage-free, conventional. It's a lot to take in.
So what's the difference between all of them? And does it really matter which ones we choose?
Well, in general, pasture-raised and organic eggs tend to be more nutritious than caged or conventionally produced eggs.
Why is that?
It comes down to how the hens are raised. Pasture-raised hens have access to a more natural diet and living conditions. They're able to roam freely outdoors and forage for food.
So that translates to healthier eggs.
Exactly. And organic eggs come from hens that haven't been treated with antibiotics or hormones.
So they're a cleaner option.
Yeah.
But pasture-raised inorganic eggs can be pricier.
That's true. They do often cost a bit more. But it's worth considering the health benefits. Choose the healthiest option that fits within your budget.
Great advice. Okay, so we've chosen our eggs. Now, what's the best way to store them to keep them fresh and safe?
Good question. Here in the United States, refrigeration is essential. That's because the washing process that most eggs go through removes their natural protective coating.
Ah, so the washing makes them more vulnerable.
Right. But in some other countries where eggs aren't washed, it's okay to store them at room temperature.
Interesting. So it varies depending on where you are. Any other storage tips?
One thing to keep in mind is that egg shells are porous. Remember we talked about that earlier?
Yeah, that bacteria can get through them.
Right. Well, that also means that eggs can absorb odors from their surroundings, so it's best to keep them away from strong-smelling foods in your refrigerator.
I've definitely noticed that before. Eggs can pick up some funky smells if you're not careful.
Exactly. So store them separately to maintain their fresh flavor.
Great tip. So we've covered storing our eggs. Now let's go back to cooking. What about when we're frying eggs? Does the type of oil we use make a difference?
It definitely does. When you're frying, you want to choose an oil that's stable at high temperatures.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, different oils have different smoke points. That's the temperature at which they start to break down and release harmful compounds.
Ah, so we want an oil with a high smoke point for frying.
Precisely. Avocado oil and sunflower oil are good options because they can handle high heat without oxidizing.
Okay, so those are good choices for frying. What about other popular oils like olive oil or coconut oil?
You can use those too, but you just have to be a bit more careful with the temperature.
How so?
Well, extra virgin olive oil has a lower smoke point, so it's best to keep the heat below 410 degrees Fahrenheit when using it.
And coconut oil?
Coconut oil has a slightly lower smoke point too, around 350 degrees Fahrenheit. You want to stay below those temperatures to avoid creating harmful free radicals.
So there you have it, folks.
Egg.
Eggs. They're a nutritional powerhouse.
Absolutely. Packed with protein, vitamins, minerals.
And so versatile. So many different ways to prepare them.
Right, from simple scrambled eggs to elegant omelets, frittatas, quiches. The possibilities are endless.
And now that we know how to avoid those common mistakes, we can really enjoy eggs to the fullest while maximizing their health benefits.
Exactly. Just remember, freshest matters. Safe handling is key. Don't overcook them, and choose the healthiest option you can.
Great advice. And if you're looking for more tips on healthy eating and nutrition, be sure to check out yourhealthfacts.com.